We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast training for EVA, VALP, and this is for women. And so we'll have a number of these. And so the first thing is safety of women. Um, there's a lot of men in business, and where there's men, there's potential risks. There just is. The men are very, very powerful in business. They have a lot of power, money, influence, people. They're often like business owners. Most business owners are going to be men. And so when you're working with men, you need to be aware men think differently than women do. You need to be aware of how they think. You need to be cautious. You need to be, I'm not saying untrusting. I'm just saying you need to be aware that there are risks and dangers. Um, And so, as a general rule, I will tend not to, my preference is not to travel in a car with just me and a woman. I'd like to have another woman or a man. I like to have three people as a general rule. It's not always the case, but as a general rule, anything you can do to make it where, and the younger woman you are, the more risk that you have. And if there's ever a feeling that you have of uncomfortability, you need to talk to, in this situation, it might be different for listening, but Elaine and or myself. Women will often tend to be naive. They don't realize the dangers out there. And so if you're uncomfortable, you need to make sure you let Elaine and I know about that. There's something about male protection that is a real thing. Like your dad, your brothers, men protect women, and men understand men. And so they can see stuff that women often are not able to see. Elaine has a high sensitivity, so you can get training from her. Maybe she'll do her own training for this for women. She can just feel and sense men that are, at risk. Like there's risky men. They're just how they look, how they act, all those type of things. Those are actually not the most dangerous. The most dangerous are the ones that know how to build trust. So men in business owners, business owners are going to be, they're good in persuasion. They're good in people. They just know how to move people. And so you have to be aware of that. You have to be cautious. If you're working with men, you need to make sure that we know about it. If there's ever anything, ideally, you're always CCing somebody else in it. You're keeping away from, a woman with a man, one on one. You're including other people so you're not alone, even if it's email. It's better to over communicate than under communicate. You have advantages in being a woman, and it's okay to use those advantages. Unfortunately, it's not a black and white. I mean, there are black and white things, but there are a bunch of gray areas. And so if you ask Elaine or um, Elise, if I flirt with women, they'll say, no, I don't think so. You ask my wife or my daughters, and they're saying, yeah, dad's flirting. And so what is flirting? Well, flirting is being nice, I guess. I mean, so there's appropriate flirting. It's just being nice. Um, and then there's inappropriate. And there's not a black and white on that, unfortunately. Um, Guys, if you're nice to them, they'll think you're interested in them often. It's just how guys are. They're like, my guy's just being nice. So sometimes you gotta be careful not to be nice, or I don't know what it is. So maybe maybe the women can help, in explaining this better. Safety, 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 moral safety, emotional, physical, relational, spiritual, all of those kind of things are really important. Um, Elaine, any thoughts that you have or suggestions?
Biggest thing would be, yeah, not to make sure, well, first make sure that everybody knows if you're talking to a client or whatever and it is a male, and then definitely not let it go if you feel uncomfortable. Always be open and upfront about that.
Yeah. And if they're not clients, but they're in the network, again, I'm not saying don't trust males, but I kind of am. And that's everybody, me, everybody. It's just every male has the potential. So you just have to go ahead and so just because they're in the network doesn't mean that you can trust them. And again, what does that mean? It's uncomfortable to talk about it, so we often don't talk about it, but I think the uncomfortable conversations need to be had. So you need to be really, really, really careful. Rosanna, any tips, suggestions, thoughts that you have?
I would listen to your women's intuition when it comes to something you might not think is right.
Yeah, yeah. Nora, suggestions, input that you have.
Not anything above and beyond what was already shared.
Okay. Katie, Katrina, do you have any suggestions or experiences or thoughts um, on that?
I don't. I don't think so.
In the next one, what we'll do is talk about women. I was talking in the pre, always come early, always stay late. Make sure you do a reflection on this, on what topics you'd like to have covered as women. And so on the pre, I ask, Katie and Katrina if they liked, if they had easier time with men or women. And both of them said, yeah, I'm good with both, which is good. Women can be nasty in business. I mean, yeah, in life. I mean, women to other women, it's just insane. And as a dad with four daughters and a bunch of granddaughters, women are just they can be mean and nasty to one another. So in the next session we have, it's important for you to learn how to go ahead and handle that and see that and understand that and navigate that. Um, and then the nuances and the different personalities and how different personalities and women and men interplay in all of this. So come prepared for the next one. When you share reflections, share in there like what are some topics that you'd like to have covered in this particular session segment podcast topic on women. We can go the full gamut, and it's not just about business; it's about life and everything else. So hopefully, this has been helpful. You guys have an amazing day. Bye bye.